Hello, today I'd like to show you how to fix a dropped stitch in one color brioche. Now, if you have never done this in two color brioche, I highly recommend that you try that first. And I have another tutorial video that you can watch that shows you the steps of how to fix a dropped stitch in two color brioche. The steps here are essentially the same, but it's made slightly trickier because your stitches and your yarn overs are worked in the same color. So identifying which strand of yarn needs to go in which place gets a little bit harder to do. So let's jump in and try this. When you are fixing a mistake in your knitting, you can always either knit over to it or slide your stitches over to it. I generally prefer to keep my working yarn away from the mistake that I'm fixing so that it is not adding one more thing to get, tangled up in what I'm doing and be confusing. So even if I'm knitting over, I'll knit to between 5 and 10 stitches away, and then I'll slide those last stitches to get over to my mistake. So here is my dropped stitch, and you can see that I placed a locking stitch marker into that stitch. Anytime you identify a dropped stitch, throwing a stitch marker or some other holder in there to make sure it doesn't continue to run down is a great trick to save you even more headache later. So to do this, I'm going to use a small crochet hook. And I'm going to insert my hook into the last stitch, the one that I put on my holder, the one that's, the last one that's still knit that hasn't been unraveled. And I'm also going to make sure to pull my needle tips out so that I don't drop any of my stitches along the sides of my work, because I only want to pick up one stitch, not 2 or 3 or 4. So the first thing we need to do with this stitch is find the yarn over that goes with it. Now, when I'm working to fix or repair for one color brioche, the strands of yarn that are going to be the yarn overs are going to be the ones that are connected to the purl stitches on either side of the column that I'm working up. And the stitches that are going to be, or the strands of yarn that are going to be worked in to this knit column are going to be the ones that are worked as yarn overs on the columns next to the one I'm working on. So first I need to identify the yarn over to go with this. So this strand right here is my first loose one, and as I tug on this, you can see that it is tightening up this stitch on the column next to it. That is one of the strands I need for a yarn over. This next one up is also a strand I need for a yarn over. So this lowest strand here is the yarn over associated with the stitch under the one on my crochet hook. And this strand of yarn is the yarn over associated with the one on my crochet hook. So now that we've got that structure set up, I can start looking for the strand I need to pull through here to create my knit stitch. So this next bar up, if I give it a little tug, I can see is tightening that stitch next to it. So that's another yarn over. This strand of yarn is coming over this stitch next door, meaning that this is going to be one of my knit stitches. But remember that in order to create this knit stitch, I need to have this yarn over structure on this stitch next door. So this strand of yarn needs to come behind the one creating the next yarn over so that we have this V structure with this yarn coming in front on both sides of the stitch. And then I can pull it through both of these stitches, and I'm going to reorient my crochet hook. All right, so we have fixed one stitch. So this is the yarn over that was just on our needle. So we need to pick up another yarn over. And this stitch, this strand of yarn, if I tug, tightens up that stitch. So that's my yarn over. And once again, I need to find a strand of yarn that's going to be worked into this knit column. So this one here is tightening up this stitch that I'm pointing to with my thumb. So that one is connected to the columns next to it. So that's not the one we need. We need the one that's the yarn over for the columns that next door. So it's this one that I'm grabbing with my crochet hook. But again, it needs to form a yarn over for that stitch next door. So it needs to come behind the stitch or the yarn that's going to make the next yarn over. And then I can pull that through. All right, there's another stitch done. Just a couple more to go. I am going to pick up this yarn over that we identified. So now I have a stitch and a yarn over. And again, this is going to be a yarn over strand. And this will be the strand that forms my knit stitch. So it, once again, is not coming behind this strand. So we need to take it behind and through. And I'm going to reorient my hook. All right, almost to the top. I'm going to pick up this yarn over. You can see it's connected to this stitch to the left. You can look at all these same connections on the right side. It should be the same. I'm going to come behind the next yarn over and grab this working yarn. And you can see as I do that, it tightens up this yarn over on the stitch next door, which is exactly what I want to see. Oops, splitting my yarn. There we go. And now I can pull this through, creating another knit stitch. And all I need to do is pick up one last yarn over, and I am ready to put this back on my needles. Making sure I didn't insert my needle into the stitch below. There we go. All right. And now you can see that I have picked that stitch back up, and we have our knit column here with the yarn overs coming behind it, and our purl columns on both sides are intact, all with their yarn overs as well. So you can see figuring out which strand to use is a little bit trickier than in 2-color, but it can absolutely be done, and you can use this technique to fix any dropped stitches in your 1-color brioche knitting. And then I would simply slide my stitches back until my needle tips are at my working yarn, and then I can continue knitting away on my project. I hope that watching this has helped you understand the structure of 1-color brioche knitting a little bit better, and helped you understand how you can address any issues that might come up when you drop a stitch in this kind of knitting. Thank you for watching.